Hi guys, welcome back. So, last time you joined us, we were talking about my film Exorcising Barry, and this time Anderson's going to be taking us through his film. And why don't you intro us what the film what's it called? What's it about?
So, seven times seven times seven is about three people who are stranded on a bus in the middle of the moorlands. They're actually the bus has been abandoned because the driver has gone off to get help, and they're actually connected by a previous devastating incident that has connected all these people together. So, it's a butterfly of consequences has led them all to this bus at this time. Very mysterious. It's the big inspirations for the film were Babel, the film Babel by Inarritu back in 2006, and the film Crash, which gets a bad rep now because maybe we're in a different time and things are more nuanced, but the interconnecting stories and showing those arcs of different people is something that I found really inspirational, and I wanted to kind of do that with this film. And it's loosely based on the adaptation of the Lord's Prayer from the Bible. And it's more like a modern interpretation of that. And that's the film. That's the film.
So, I know that you've had this idea for quite a long time. So, just take us briefly through like how the idea came about and how long you've been sitting on it and why it's taken that long to get to this point.
Well, the idea came about. I've had this idea since around 2011, 2012, and it came up to me because I kind of had a weird period in my life, where I did things that weren't great, and I had this idea of this character, and it inspired me to write this film about this character who had felt guilt, and how they, or he, I should say, was struggling to overcome it. And I had this idea of how this guilt has affected people in a negative way, but then also seeing, like, is there a possibility, can this person be redeemed? And I at the time it wasn't right to make it, and I wanted to try to take a different approach because it was for me it's quite a dark film. It's not dark comparing to like David Fincher stuff, but for my tone, I'm more like jovial comedy. Even Diembe, which had serious themes, was had a lot of comedic elements. Family Ties, comedic elements. Book of Love, comedic. It's a romantic comedy. So you know I've had that more jovial. Let's have a serious talk but a laugh. This film, there's no laughs to be had because it's a sad, slightly depressing situation. And you've gone dark there. You've gone dark. You're back. So now
How could
the
I?
lights back. And I kind of, yeah, it's just one of those things. I wasn't sure the story was very good at the time. I didn't have confidence in it, and I kind of left it for a few years, and obviously made those films that I've talked about. Had a big gap between DMB and Family Ties, that I you make the decisions you make. So it's been one that's been sitting on, but then the opportunity, the Pitch Film Fund is a competition that makes Bible adaptations into contemporary films. It's you're not making a religious film per se. It's just an adaptation challenge, and it's a competition I had looked at for a long time, but I kind of ignored. Didn't think I was good enough. To be perfectly honest, I just didn't think I was good enough to succeed on it. Or there was also another issue why I didn't enter. But fast forward to 2018, I entered a film in there, another project, and I got to the finals. And then the year after, I got a runner up with another film, The Motherland. And so, after getting really close, it's like, okay, maybe I am at the right level to kind of pitch and win. So I took a break from it. Obviously, COVID happened. Made Book of Love and Family Ties. And then I came back in 2022 and said, you know what? I want to enter in again, but a 2-year gap from the pitch. This film is based on the Lord's Prayer because the characters were in the film have the three elements of the Lord's Prayer, which is forgiveness, guilt, and deliverance from evil. Right? One character's child's been killed in a hit and run. One character is, spoiler alert, responsible for it, or semi responsible, and another character has been an abusive, has an abusive parent. Um, and that these three elements for me, in the Lord's Prayer, just talk about that: deliver us from evil, forgive us our debts, um, let us not fall into temptation, that kind of thing. So I just felt like these stories, okay, this is maybe got a shot to win. So I went and shot a pitch trailer. Me and the very famous Stu Swindell, who seems to be everywhere now. Stu, we shot it. I entered it, and I didn't win, but I made the finals. And to win, you would get a £30,000 production budget. So you spec the idea with that kind of approach in mind. Didn't win, but got good feedback. Made the finals, the final five, which is good because 3 times out of 3 finalist for the pitch. But it really gave me confidence. There's something to this. Sat on it for another year, and then something came up, because one of the most expensive elements of the film was the buses. It's a bus stranded in the middle of nowhere. Buses, anyone who's knows any little thing about locations, they're expensive, and that's just for them moving. To imagine having a bus stationary somewhere, you have a lot of fees you got to pay. So it's a substantial part of the budget. But then something arose where a friend of a friend actually owned a bus, or had a bus available, and respectfully, it didn't. There was almost no cost associated to it. A friend of a friend. So you're thinking, okay, this is almost a layup. If it's possible to do this, if I can get the crew together, let's do this. Let's do this. So, got the crew together. We'll talk about them all in a bit. And everyone really, donated their time, believed in the story, and I'm forever grateful for them to do that. And we shot the first bit of the film, and that was the bit that was more difficult, because everything else in the film, we shoot at a garage, we shoot at a house, we shoot even in a church and I'm forgetting. That's it. I think that's it. And obviously exterior moorlands. The hard part was the bus interiors, because we needed to spend a substantial amount of time in the bus. And getting that, it was like, this film is possible. So for me, it came from a not very confident in it, sat on it for a few years, made other films, then finally decided after 11 years had passed, okay, maybe I can pitch this thing. You realize, okay, it's actually, people think it's a good idea, they think there's potential there. Still sit on it for another year and a half, because where am I going to get £30,000 from? And then the main part of the movie just lands at your feet. You can't just ignore that. That's how I felt at the time. And so that's how it kind of came to pass.
So it was kind of all these things that just came together realistically. It was you feeling ready, along with essentially a bus falling on your lap, which feels like a sign, right? It's like, it's time to make the film. So what was so you pulled all the crew together and you shot it. And tell us a bit about the shoot. How long was the shoot? What were some challenges, and what were some rewarding moments from the shoot?
So we shot over 3 weekends. So end of January, the middle of February, and then we had a final day in April. And the main challenge for me was just getting that apprehension out, because it's the largest film I've made. It's just a bit larger than Diembe, to be honest. But because I've done Diembe, and Diembe was a big film, we go back and we say, if we kept on going, we could have just made a feature. We had the full crew, several locations. It was very similar to Diembe in the sense of, a large crew, but you also have, several locations. But thankfully, because we did it in blocks, I didn't have to think about, okay, I'm shooting on the bus for these 2 days. Now we got to go and get, film in the house the next day because the crew's knackered. The other big challenge was that it was night shoots. It had to be night shoots because it was set at night. The area where we had a bus had a sunroof, so we couldn't even shoot in daytime and pretend it was sun. Pretend it was night. Sorry. We had to wait till it was nighttime because the sun, the sunroof. I don't, not this, top of like warehouses. You
Mm.
can have that skylight, whatever you want to call them. And so we had to shoot at night. There was just no other option. And so doing those 2 night shoots, it was just a challenge of getting used to that. With the large crew, because we did have a full crew. For me, it was a full crew. First AD, DP, gaffers, art department, runners, camera assists, sound recorders. We even had 2 sound recordists. So it's quite a big film,
Mm.
and it's just the management of that. Thankfully I had a wonderful first AD. I want to give a shout out to Elliot Johns. He really handled a lot of that for me. Elliot's a filmmaker. I know, he finished in the same, he went to the same university as we did. Finished a few years later with, our mutual friend, my good friend Dominic Mathewson. I knew them both coming up, him and Elliot. But it was good to have that. I really needed that because how often am I my own first AD, Mark? It's too often,
Mm-hmm.
and it's too much to think about. It's a kind of film I couldn't shoot. I couldn't shoot it because there's just too much going on, too much elements to think about. I needed to kind of focus on just the story, and I had a wonderful DP. Shout out to Ben Halford, who I've worked with on 2 films now, and Ben is the first DP that I feel comfortable with, other than you, to work on my passion projects with. We've done since uni we've been
Mm.
working together, and it was I must say it was quite apprehensive to kind of go to somebody new. For commercials and corporates, yeah, I've worked with other DPs, but when it's your own passion
Mm.
project, it for me it's not just the work. You got to get on with them. They got to get your style.
Mm.
The personalities got to match because again, it's a passion project, so there's not really any money in it. And if you're not getting on with them and they don't get on with you, it could be a very difficult shoot. So that was important to me. But Ben took care. Ben took care of us. Took care in the shoot. Did a great job. He knows I think that anyway. Great looking film, and just the variety of set pieces. I know it's not about that, but the story had to go to bounce around different places because of the nature of how they got on the bus. So having all these elements there, and to go to different locations and have that variety within the film, it was necessary. So I think that was, for me, it was a challenge in sense that I just needed to start. Once we started, and I have this saying, and it's probably most ADs will say it. Everything is slow, and then all of a sudden it's fast, 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 fast. And
Mm.
I feel when you have a good crew, that's always the way it goes. Starts off slow, you don't know why. It's like, why is everything taking ages? It's taking ages to set the camera, ages to set the lighting, ages to do this, ages for the makeup, ages. And then you're on schedule. Like, we're on schedule, but it's taking ages. And the next thing you know, it's like, scene. Okay, oh, we finished that scene. Oh, we finished this scene. We finished this scene. You're like, whoa, okay. We've wrapped up day 1. Oh my goodness, this film was a quarter done. And it just
Mm.
happens. And I love that. I love that because it's like almost an inertia, like it's production's a train that's going, then it's at full steam, and you're just like, whoa, okay, we're going, baby, we're going. So I think it's just getting everybody there was the biggest challenge, and again, everyone knows the crew. I'll try and shout out everyone, but it's gonna, I won't shout out everyone because I'm gonna miss somebody out. They were all incredible, an incredible job. Pulled in tons of favors. As you know, our guys from Pro AV sorted me out with some really lovely lenses. I think the Pavo Anamorphics, which really gave it a dream look. I mean, I guess you'll ask me in a second why we did that, but it was really, really good to have that. And everybody came through. And I'm mad grateful. Sorry, I'm very grateful for everyone lending me their time and resources. But it was even down to the university with, I lectured there I part-time lecture at the university, and even engaging with some of my students to say, hey, you guys want to make this film? There's no budget in it, and they all came. The ones that I asked came on board. Wonderful project. I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Great. So, what when did you finish the shoot? Like, the majority of the film, let's say, technically
Yeah.
done?
I mean, because technically I finished it like 2 weeks ago when I
Yeah.
filmed the last bit,
Yeah.
but no, the majority of the film was done by April. We had filmed in January and February for 1 week in those 2 months, so Saturday Sunday in the Jan and a Saturday Sunday
Hmm.
in the Feb, and then we shot on a Monday in April. Then that was the exteriors where we shot where I had to hire a bus. I mean, look, I'd saved so much money with my friend's friend having the bus that it was like, look, I can't be like, I can't finish the film because I can't afford a bus. It's like, look, I've saved so much money there. Let me just get the bus and finish this off. And it was quite emotional for me because you go from a treatment, and I have treatments that are 12 years old for this film. Then I have the treatment I made for the pitch, and it has a bus in the moorlands that I had to AI generate because that image doesn't exist. A bus broken down in the moorlands at night does not
Mm.
exist, or it didn't exist when I looked. And then now seeing that image, and seeing the actress Alicia Charles in there in the bus behind her, is quite an emotional moment for me because you're like, damn, this actually happened. I actually did this. This was in my head for
Mm.
12 years, and here it is. I think that's, yeah, it's quite emotional when you think about it. And look, there's a lot of sacrifices to make it happen, not just on my part, but the crew's part, my family's part, my wife's part, my kids' part. But I'm just incredibly grateful to everyone involved for just um being there for us, and yeah. But yeah, technically, sorry, to answer your question, the majority of the film was finished in April. Had a pickup shoot early September this month, depending on when this
Yeah.
goes out, and that's helped finish the film. And currently, as of the recording of this podcast, in post production. So yeah, it's different, man. It's different.
So tell us where you are now, because you're almost at the end of post production, right?
Almost,
So
almost.
tell me, just take us through kind of that process and where you're up to and what's left to do, if anything.
So as of recording this podcast, it's the 9th of September 2024 at 12 p.m. Sorry, cut that bit out because people are gonna be like, oh, content. So at the moment, it's currently with we're picture locked. We've had a summer of wrestling with this edit. The thing about making a non-linear multi-storyline film is that you can cut it in like 50 to 100 to a million different ways. I know every film can be cut in many ways, but this one in particular,
Mhm.
because the stories aren't told in chronological order, the issue I had was, how can, okay, this is all gotta work together, or I could try it this way. Actually, it's stronger if you put that scene in that scene. Okay, what if we just did everything in order? Does that quite work? What if we do like a Dunkirk style where they all converge? You're like, wow, my brain. And I have to shout out Lily Blott. Lily Blott, a great editor. She's a great friend of mine. We worked together for 10 years. A wonderful friend of mine. And she put a pass together. She edited the film and really gave me some really solid ideas. Because look, to be honest, I edit them as well. But I always prefer having a second opinion to kind of go, oh, try this. And I love the way she put some certain scenes together that really made me think differently about the film. Even if the order of the scenes didn't change as much, it was just how they were cut, little nuances that I just missed. It's like, oh wow, that's beautiful, And so that was a real important part of the process. Getting people involved. You know, that really helped. I think of Justine from the Script Factory. She gave me some great advice. Luke Walton of the Pitch. Even though I didn't win, they were still involved in helping me with certain elements of it. And they gave me some good advice to look at the film differently, and it really helped me, I think, make a much stronger edit. Obviously feedback from yourself as well. I've had wonderful feedback from everyone, and it's become a real team effort to kind of make this into what it is become, which is this film that is taking it. So at the moment, it's with the sound designers, Carl Pepper, who's a sound recordist in the film, and Kyle Martin Clark, we know Kyle. Kyle's our guy. We've had him on the podcast. They're currently doing the sound design for the film, and then Michael Tedstone, my composer, my favorite composer. This is our fifth film together. I met with him when I went to in Leicester to his studio, and we sat down. We were talking about ideas, and he's used to my like, oh, we can try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, that's great. Oh, actually, I've got this temp track. What do you think? Michael always looks after me. I've been working with him for 14 years since my graduate film in uni, and this is our fifth film together. And the soundtrack is already sounding really good. I'm really ecstatic about where the film is at the moment. And again, everyone coming through and obviously there's elements you have to pay for. I'm not saying everything is free. That's not what I'm saying. There's still things you literally have to pay for. You can't be avoided. But it's down to the crew really being flexible and generous with their time.
Cool. So, what is next for the film, and what's next for you after this?
For the film, we're gonna have I guess it's premiere. I'm calling it preview because I'm nervous, but it's gotta happen on the 5th of October. It's a screening in Leicester called Epitome Arts. Is hosting it's a black filmmaker showcase. There's two other black filmmakers that are coming. It's Black History Month in the UK in October, so the film's gonna show there. I'm gonna have a proper premiere, I guess. Can you call it premiere if it's already shown somewhere? But it's gonna be more of a gala crew centric screening in Stoke, because the film was all shot in Stoke and Trent except for like one tiny shot. All shot in Stoke in the Staffordshire area. And so I want there to be there's a lot of people in the local area that really really were instrumental in helping me bring this to life, that I want to kind of acknowledge and show the film in somewhere. They don't have to go all the way to London to watch the film that they were instrumental in being a part of and bring it to life. So that's the next steps for the film. And then festivals. It's got to go to festivals. The film's around 19 minutes, so it's on the edge. But look, that's the film that it is. And so I want to get around to festivals and just send it out to people. Maybe the producer will see it. And just again add to my portfolio of work that this is what I can do, because again, this is like a showcase. I love the films that I've made recently. They've been really good. But Book of Love has done really well at festivals. Won award the other at a festival in June. So it's no slight on those films. They've been wonderful experiences, and without those films, I wouldn't have got to this film. But this film has been something. Obviously, it's been I wrote it even before Diembe. I wrote it 11 years ago, the first iteration of it. And to see this story comes to life is just a really, it's a real, I won't say landmark moment, but it's a milestone moment in my career. You made this, this film was almost became a little bit of you made a mountain out of a molehill. You're like, ooh, can you pull this off? Or is it even any good? What are you doing? No one wants to see this film, Andy. What are you doing? Give up. All these little demons that are telling you, how inadequate you are, and then you finally make it, and you're like, you know what? I can move on with my life now. Not just move on, but get this story out the world, and hopefully people will enjoy it and like it. Maybe people will wrestle with the themes a little bit. I want to leave them asking questions. I want to get emails like, Anderson, why did you make it end that way? What happened? I want people to feel that way. Not that I have an open-ending ending, but and in terms of me, I'm at an interesting point. There's films I want to do next, and I think, but at the moment, I want to have a break from, if I'm honest, investing all my personal money into the films, just in the short term, because I do want to try and crowdfunding, get to the community involved with my filmmaking. I think there's a couple of projects that I have in store that I think the community might want to back. My work the last 3 years has been really focusing on making film in Staffordshire, trying to obviously there's other people in Staffordshire that are earning films. There's an Oscar-winning film that's made by a company in Staffordshire. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm the only person in Staffordshire making films. But in my circle of people, and pushing to get the work I want to get and pushing, to make Stoke a more appetizing film location. That's really important for me. We look at like what Robert Rodriguez has done to Austin. I mean, I don't know how much of a film industry was in Austin really before Rodriguez and Troublemaker Studios, I think it's called. They really pushed it, and now Austin's kind of seen as a respected place. Again, correct me if there was a massive industry there before. I'm sorry, but I wasn't aware of it.
I can tell you personally that in 2016 there was only one kit hire company in the whole of Austin.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like that means there's a huge film industry in Austin if you only have one kit rental place.
But the thing is, what he's done is obviously S by S is there, has created a cultural community. I'm not saying it's just Robert Rodriguez, but he's done something incredible by trying to bring more film to that area. And I would love to do that for Staffordshire. I'm not saying other people aren't doing that. That's not what I'm saying. But I have no control what everyone else is doing. And, to be honest, even though, and to be honest, I just, I'm a very impatient person. I just can't wait on other people to do something. I want to try it, and I want to have other opportunities for other filmmakers, because this industry, as you know, is opaque. And, growing up in Stoke-on-Trent, when I was 13 years old, you kind of, it gets, it gets the feeling of a place that people don't want to come to and don't want to be a part of. And I think just change the perception there and make some interesting things that people wouldn't normally see.
Agreed. And if I'd never gone to Stoke-on-Trent, I'd never have met you.
Exactly.
I actually thought it was a very nice looking place when I actually came to Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah. That's one of the defining factors of why I stayed, because I actually thought it's quite an unusual place just because of how it's laid out. Yeah. But I like Stoke-on-Trent, and it definitely holds a special place for me. 100. I mean, I went to uni there, so obviously it does. But yeah, it does feel like home to some degree, Stoke-on-Trent. I have to say that. So if you haven't been, go to Stoke-on-Trent and hang out in one of its many towns.
And have an oat cake, mate.
Controversial. I don't like oatcakes, but you may well. That's me personally. Just not a huge fan of oatcakes, but I love Stoke-on-Trent.
Well, I live here, so obviously I do love it. So I guess we'll wrap it up, man. Yeah. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. Again, we love you having you part of the podcast. Remember to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, just make sure you click follow and you'll get more updates. It's not a weekly podcast, but we're going to get them up when we can. All right?
And can I also say that this was just a really brief chat from both of us about our films, but if you want to hear more, we could definitely be more in depth with any part of the process. So if there's anyone out there that would like more information on any particular part of that process from the start to the finish, then let us know, because we're more than happy to talk about these things and try and give you tips and teach you what we've learned so that you can not make the same mistakes that we probably have made in the past. So yeah.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.